Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Cinema. I am Money Mike, and it is WrestleMania week. Officially, it is 1 week from WrestleMania Sunday, and now the question is, can the women's division be saved and be booked better after WrestleMania? Can and will NXT call ups save the women's mid card titles? Can the NXT call ups save the women's tag team championships? Or is Papa H just not going to cook when it comes to the women's division? Because let's be honest here, I know that WWE does want to wait until after WrestleMania for call ups, but I think from this past year, NXT call ups, we needed, it's funny, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, 2015, WWE just surprisingly brought up Becky, Charlotte, Sasha to the main roster as part of their whole women's revolution thing, and they just brought them up to kind of freshen things up. And that's kind of what we needed this past year from the women's division on the main roster, because, oh my goodness, all we got on Raw was Liv, Rhea, Liv, Rhea, Liv, Rhea. Then on SmackDown, Bayley had this great storyline with Io Sky. She won the women's championship at WrestleMania last year, and then they didn't really do anything with it. Like, even when Nia Jax won Queen of the Ring and Nia beat Bayley at SummerSlam, even then it was more, of a prop to build Tiffany up to eventually cash in on Nia. And again, it was almost kind of like they didn't really do a whole lot with the women's division. While down at NXT, you had Shawn Michaels down there. Chef Shawn Michaels, he's cooking up banger after banger with these women's matches. And NXT, I think, for a lot of fans, has the best women's division in all of professional wrestling right now. And obviously, that's going to take a hit after WrestleMania with call-ups, a draft, things like that. But is that going to be enough? I'm wearing my Firefly Funhouse t-shirt for this video, and the question I have is, what happened to Alexa Bliss? Alexa Bliss could have easily slotted in against Chelsea Green, against Lyra Valkyria for either the Women's Intercontinental Championship or the Women's United States Championship. There is like a lot of stuff online that she is going to be doing the whole Wyatt family, Wyatt Six stuff, and that's great. And apparently there's injuries that are keeping the Wyatt Six off of TV right now, which is interesting because why would that affect Alexa Bliss? Like, why are we strong tying Alexa Bliss to the Wyatt family's health? Like, if the Wyatt Six, and I know I keep calling them the Wyatt family, but it's the Wyatt Six. I understand if Bo is injured or if Eric Rowan is injured, Joe Gacy, Nikki Cross. I can understand that they're injured, but when you have a group that has that many members, you can still use the other members. Like, one of the things that Triple H did that I think a lot of people thought was so fun and entertaining was when Eric got injured, Eric of the Viking Raider or the War Raiders, Ivar was kind of doing the singles thing. Like, he was doing the singles run, and he was really showing like, hey, he has some potential as a single star outside of the War Raiders tag team. And so if you have Alexa Bliss and you're doing this whole thing that's supposed to build up to her reuniting with the Wyatt Six, why wouldn't you at least have Alexa on TV, but just have her doing, like, just have her on? I mean, look, she had one of the biggest pops at the Royal Rumble. Like, I think probably the biggest pop in the entire Women's Royal Rumble. Like, why wouldn't you just bring her back as a babyface, have her go against Chelsea, and then, with the White Six, when you have the Secret Harvest with Piper Niven, you have Alba Fire, Alexa is outnumbered, and then you could bring in Nikki Cross, who tries to help Alexa, and then Alexa maybe doesn't want Nikki's help or whatever, but there's stuff you can do with Alexa, right? Then there's the curious case of Roxanne Perez, and I will get to the NXT women after this. But she was brought in, nearly won the Royal Rumble, by the way. Charlotte eliminated her to win the Rumble. She was in Elimination Chamber, and we thought she was going to be in a feud with Bayley, and instead Bayley is teaming with Lyra for the women's tag team titles, even though Lyra is the women's Intercontinental Champion. And again, you have these mid-card titles you introduced, and you're not really doing anything with them creatively. You have Lyra going for another set of titles that hasn't been booked properly ever since they even brought them in. Like, what was it, 2017, 18 at this point? And what are we, 2025? So it's one of those things where it's like, why isn't Lyra defending against Bayley? Why isn't Roxanne, Bayley, Lyra a women's triple threat match for the Women's Intercontinental Championship? And then maybe Chelsea against Zelina Vega, maybe that gets added to the WrestleMania card. I don't know. We know there's probably going to be some matches added on, probably on Raw and on SmackDown. But it's kind of crazy that, like, you bring in Roxanne and then now she has nothing really for NXT either. Like, she's going around like, hey, I'm trying to get a match. She was on SmackDown where she lost to Tiffany Stratton, but she went in Nick Aldis' office and was like, hey, Ava's not giving me a match, a stand and deliver, so I'm here on SmackDown. And it's like, why isn't there anything for Roxanne down at NXT? Like, someone's got to ask Shawn Michaels that. So, again, you could have had Roxanne going for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Like, I think Bayley, Lyra, Roxanne as a triple threat match. And, yeah, I know you already have the Women's World Title triple threat match already, but who cares? Like there would have been story between all three of them. Bayley winning the Intercontinental Championship, Roxanne feuding with Bayley, Roxanne, Lyra have history from NXT, so it would have worked. And so is Triple H just waiting for call-ups to save these divisions that are in desperate need post-WrestleMania? That is the one thing we need to talk about here. Like I said, they've crowded the roster down in NXT so much. They could have benefited from bringing Jordynne Grace up to the main roster right away to help build the women's mid-card division. They could have brought up Roxanne already to the main roster. Like I said, she could have been fighting for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Alexa, she could have been fighting for the Women's United States Championship against Chelsea while she's waiting for the White Six to be cleared, and maybe they tease that she's trying to go on her own before she gets sucked back into the Wyatt vortex or whatever. So let's look at the NXT roster. Can this be saved? That's what I want to look at here. Cora Jade, I do think she'll probably go up to the main roster. I think it's kind of weird that they've been teasing tension between Cora and Roxanne, but they're not really going to do anything with it. Like, if Roxanne is going to the main roster, why not have Cora or Roxanne put over Cora on the way out, and you can build Cora Jade up for maybe the NXT Women's Championship down the line. Again, you got Fatal Influence, right? You got Fallon Henry, JC Jane, Jasmine Nix. that right there, you have a tag team, you have a competitor in Fallon Henry that can go for either the Women's Intercontinental Championship or the Women's United States Championship, while you got JCJ and Jasmine Nix going for the women's tag team titles. Then, of course, you got Giulia, Stephanie, obviously the big names there, Jordynne Grace. It's going to be I'm going to be interested to see the results of Stand and Deliver, because that's going to tell a lot about who's going to be called up to the main roster and who isn't. So, is Giulia, maybe Stephanie, going to go up to the main roster in the draft, in the shakeup post WrestleMania? Jada Parker, she's also in the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Women's Championship. Obviously, you got that ladder match for the vacant NXT North American Championship. You got the Meta 4. Like, they competed, I think it was the Saudi show for the women's tag team titles in the Fatal 4-Way, and then they kind of went back to NXT. Like, why? Like, Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend, I think should have been caught up at that point and just been a part of the women's tag team division already. Because when you look back at that gauntlet match, there's really not a team in there that literally was a tag team. So they could have easily used the metaphor there to put a proper tag team in that match. Then you got Kalani Jordan. You got a lot of women down at NXT that I think can help refresh, give the women's division the mid-card titles, the tag team championships, even the world title scenes a fresh makeover that it desperately needs. As I go through this list here, you got Lola Vice, you got Nikita Lyons. Again, I already talked about Roxanne Perez. You got Sol Ruka, and you got who's your tag team partner? I can't remember. Zarya. They are a tag team. You could have brought them in as part of this tag team gauntlet. You got Wendy Chu, who I think could be an interesting add to the Wyatt Six if you really wanted to go that route. You got Tatum Paxley. Tatum Paxley, again, if you do take the title off the Women's Intercontinental Championship off of Lyra, you do have the history of Tatum and Lyra and their friendship from NXT. They can be a tag team. You know, there's Thea Hale, who hasn't really done a whole lot outside of the whole Chase U stuff. So I think she would be a good one. You could bring back Shotzi. Like, to me, the women's division right now needs to be a main focus for Triple H post WrestleMania. They have so many talent down at NXT right now that can come up to the main roster, and freshen up the scene all across the board. World title, mid-card, tag team. And I'm hoping that is the case, because we should not be at WrestleMania 42 1 year from now going, why isn't the women's tag team titles not on the card? Why is the Women's Intercontinental Championship and the Women's United States Championship once again left off the card? Let's hope that is not the case. So let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think Triple H, the WWE should do to freshen up the women's division? Will the NXT call-ups be enough to save the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championship and the tag team? And do you think even the main event, the world title pictures, needs a refresh and a makeover? Comment below. And as always, I've been your host, Money Mike. You've been watching Ringside Cinema, and I am going to WrestleMania, and I'll be filming on location in Las Vegas all week long. So go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, as I do produce weekly wrestling content, and you will not want to miss any of the content I have planned while in Las Vegas for WrestleMania.